Welcome to Daily Living with Father Chapin, where we cruise through the Catholic liturgy of the Word, trying to dig out the deeper meanings of Scripture and how they might apply to our daily living. Yes, my friend, that is what we do. Here we ask ourselves questions like, hey, what do these Gospels have to do with me? That's what I want to know. How can I take these Gospels and apply them into my daily living so that I can become a reflection of God's love to a world, let's face it, don't know God for sure, and definitely is in deep need of more love, don't you think? I mean, take a look around. There's a lot of bad news out there. How can I take the good news of Jesus Christ, apply it into my daily living so that I can become, well, a light in that darkness, a tool in the hand of God, making present His kingdom, not someday, but today and every day. That's what this show is all about. So glad that you could join us today as we consider this amazing gospel, and it is amazing, here on the 5th Sunday of Ordinary Time. Got a great show, looking forward to getting into it, but I just got to tell you, it's been a tough week. Been busy, right? So I had meetings in Clarksburg on Wednesday, and then on Thursday and Friday I had meetings at headquarters in Wheeling. So I'm gone for 3 days, and in the middle of it I get a call that my good friend's mother passed away. Now, fortunately I was able to do the vigil on Friday night down there in Princeton, and then stay over and do the funeral the next day. But I had just enough time to drive back in from Wheeling, stop by the rectory real quickly, grab my stuff, and then race down there, make it just in time for the vigil at 5 o'clock. In the rain, by the way. So I go down, I really hurry, I get there right at like 4:45. I'm getting out of my car at the funeral home when I notice I'm wearing slippers. I am wearing slippers. Now, this is metaphorical to life, okay? Because the truth of the matter is that if I just said, that's fine, they just made no big deal about it, I doubt very many people would have noticed. On one hand, of people that would have said something. Because people don't really look down at your shoes, And I should have just been cool, but no. I completely freak out, right? I go into the funeral director's office. I say, I got to go find a shoe store. And evidently in this town, Princeton, they don't have a shoe store. I guess they don't have feet in Princeton. They didn't have a shoe store. So I thought, well, I'll just do the vigil in my slippers. And I kind of talked to some people and I said, we'll bring you some shoes for the funeral tomorrow. Which the funeral came, and this man, Uncle Frank was his name, he brought me some black shoes. And well, actually, I'm wearing the black shoes right now that he brought me because they were so, can you see them? Sort of. Look at these shoes. These are high dollar shoes. These are like $200 shoes. And he said, how do you like the shoes? I said, well, I love them. He said, well, you can have them. So I got a good pair of shoes out of the deal. Kind of silly, isn't it? But what does that have to do with our gospel? Nothing at all. So what do you say? We calm ourselves, kind of put ourselves into the presence of God. God wants to lead you with the quiet voice, and He does it in many, many ways. But one very powerful way is His Word. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because this is a really, really important lesson. Okay? So I want you to really open up your ears to hear this message, because God's ready to speak to you. The question is, are you ready to listen? We're going to school, my friend. Are you ready to be the student? Our gospel today comes from the Gospel of Luke, and it is known as the call of Simon Peter, or the great catch. While the crowd was pressing in on Jesus and listening to the word of God, He was standing by the lake of Gennesaret. He saw 2 boats there alongside the lake. The fishermen had disembarked and were washing their nets. Getting to one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, he asked to put out a short distance from shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. After he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and lower your nets for a catch." Simon said in reply, "Master, we have worked hard all night and have caught nothing, but at your command I will lower the nets." When they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their nets were tearing. They signaled their partners in the other boat to come help them. They came and filled both boats, so that the boats were in danger of sinking. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at the knees of Jesus and said, "Depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." For astonishment at the catch of fish they had made seized him, and all those with him, and likewise James and John, and the sons of Zebedee, who were partners of Simon. Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on you will be catching men." When they brought their boats to the shore, they left everything and followed him. The gospel of the Lord. And what a gospel it is, my friend. This is Daily Living. I'm Father Chapin. You hang out. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk about this gospel. And you know what? We're probably going to bring a few other things into it along the way, here as we celebrate Super Bowl Sunday, the 5th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Hi, this is Father Chapin, host of Daily Living with Father Chapin. Every once in a while I get stopped in the grocery store or on the street or somewhere in public, and a complete stranger will come up to me and say, "You know what, I watch you each and every week. Don't go to church, but I watch you." And I'm thinking, wow, is that amazing? But you know, the only reason I'm reaching that person is through media, and media is very expensive. And if you'd like to help me with this ministry, I'd like you to prayerfully consider a contribution to Daily Living at 325 West Main Street, White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, 24986. And together, we can bring a little light into this very, very dark world.
Thank you for watching Daily Living with Father Chapin. To help support this television ministry, please send your tax-deductible donations to Daily Living, 325 West Main Street, White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, 24986.
Welcome back to Daily Living. So today we find ourselves in the 5th chapter of Luke, which is kind of cool because we're in the 5th Sunday of Ordinary Time. And our gospel today is often referred to as the calling of Simon the fisherman, or also the great catch. I remember growing up, I'd hear the story, and I would always kind of picture in my mind's eye, Jesus is on the beach, and he tells Simon the fisherman, who later becomes Peter, to lower his nets, and he catches a boatload of fish, right? To the point where the whole boat's sinking. What does it mean? It seemed to be suggesting to me that God will provide abundantly if we believe in him, right? I mean, doesn't that make sense? I mean, if you believe in me, you're going to get a boatload of fish. Maybe a new house, or maybe a better job, or maybe that man you really want to marry, And if you don't believe me, you got nothing, right? You get a night of fishing with no fish, right? It's the gospel of prosperity. Trust me, it fills up stadiums. I'm talking about 100,000 people here, saying in 100,000 different ways, God wants to bless you with a boatload of fish. If you really pray hard and you really, really mean it, okay, and you have no doubt. And by the way, sending me money proves that you have no doubt. I like that part, okay? You're going to get a boatload of fish, right? I can almost hear Jesus whispering in the background, "Your wish is my command," right? So where do we even begin with this gospel? Let's begin here, okay? Recognizing immediately that, this gospel talks a lot about fish, okay? But it ain't about fish. It talks about abundance, but it ain't about abundance, okay? You know what it really is? Well, let me tell you. Okay, first of all, in this gospel, there's this line, "Put out into deep waters." Get ready, my friend, because we're going to the deep end of the pool, okay? I mean, call in the kids, all right? Because this gospel is not about fish. It's not about abundance. It's about a decision. So don't get distracted by the fish. It's about a decision that will change everything in your life, even the circumstances of your death. So, today, we're going to be asking the question, what decision are you going to make when Jesus climbs into your boat? While the crowd was pressing in on Jesus, listening to the Word of God, he was standing by the Lake Gennesaret. He saw 2 boats there alongside the lake. The fishermen had disembarked and were washing their nets. Getting to one of the boats, the one that belonged to Simon, he asked to put out a short distance from the shore, and he sat down and begins to teach the crowds right from the boat. So, let's just set the table. Again, we're in Luke. lots happened. 5th chapter we're at, but lots happened so far. Jesus has already been baptized by John in the River Jordan. He's already been tempted in the desert by Satan. He makes his debut in that small fishing village called Capernaum, where he drives out the demon, right? Then immediately after that, he visits the home of Simon Peter's mother-in-law. She's very sick. It says she was afflicted with a severe fever. And the family intercedes on her behalf. Says, Jesus, can you get involved, right? So Jesus goes to see her. Now, Scripture is silent as to whether Simon Peter was actually present at that healing. I mean, he was a working man, so he was probably out on the water somewhere. Jesus stands over this woman, rebukes her fever. She jumps up and boom, immediately begins to wait on him because she's cured instantly. They call this spontaneous remission. Now, the word gets out. This son of a carpenter, preaching like nobody's ever preached before, healing people, not even charging money to do it, okay? The word's out, crowds have swelled to record numbers. The crowd is pressing in on Jesus. The Greek word suggests like a shoulder-to-shoulder situation, which, by the way, I'm not a fan of that. You know, Times Square, New Year's Eve, really? Do we even need to go there? But that's what it is. They're just crowding in on him because he is drawing all these people. They're pressing and they're listening to God's word. That word, the Logos, is something they've never heard before. Jesus was not a theologian. Jesus was not there to interpret the law or anything for that matter. What they're hearing is the raw, unedited version of the mind and the will of the Father. So I got a question. Do you think it's possible for us to hear that today? I mean, to really hear from God, not about God, not from some preacher or some story about Jesus. I'm talking about a direct communication. Do you think that's possible to hear directly from God today? You know, I don't know. You know, I imagine if I were to ask most people, they'd probably say, well, you know, I'd probably not, no. Well, remember how I was talking about deep waters, okay, earlier? Well, here, this is like the Marianas Trench of deep water. This is like 7 miles deep, okay? I want you to take the roast beef out of your ears and really hear this one, okay? Yes, my friend, you actually can hear directly from God. Yes, today. And it all depends on what decision you make when Jesus climbs into your boat. He saw 2 boats there alongside the lake. Fishermen had disembarked and were cleaning their nets. So here we have Jesus. The crowd's about pushing him into the lake, okay? And he looks down. He's trying to, I imagine he's trying to escape. And he notices down the shore a couple boats and fishermen, and he recognizes one of them, okay? It's Simon. I mean, he knows the family, right? I mean, we know that he's just come recently, driven out a fever of his mother-in-law. So Jesus spots Simon, and Simon's coming at the end of his work day, and it has not been a good work day. Now, during this time, first century Israel, okay, fishermen were required to buy a license from Rome to fish in this lake. And those licenses were very expensive. So families would get together and pool their assets and form like a co-op. And again, they would pool all their money and either build or buy a boat, or they would, you know, buy the nets and the hooks and the poles and all the fish and stuff, right? And 40% of whatever they catch goes to Rome, the tax man. And they would generally fish at night, from midnight till dawn. The winds are calmer, there's less activity on the lake, but most importantly, they don't have a refrigeration, they don't have ice, and fish, as you know, is quite perishable. And, you know, so if you don't get it cooked pretty quickly, you know, it can get nasty quick, right? So they would catch the fish, bring it early in the morning, rush it to the market, and those who could afford to buy it would buy it to eat. And this is how Simon Peter pays his bills. This is the boat of his life. But on this particular morning, it's not been good, okay? He's been out all night. He's got nothing, okay? He's done. He's anxious, he's irritated, he's tired, he's dragging his nets out of the boat, he's cleaning off the lake scum and getting all the seaweed out, he's stretching them out, he's putting them up on these big wooden racks to dry, okay? I imagine that Simon's aware the whole time there's a crowd down there and this Jesus is preaching, you know, but his mind is elsewhere. He's got bigger fish to fry. How am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to pay the tax man? Does that sound familiar? How am I going to pay for my kids' college? What about braces? This is Daily Living. I'm Father Chapin. You hang out. We'll be right back, and we will continue to talk about this amazing gospel that comes to us here as we celebrate the 5th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Hi, this is Father Chapin, host of Daily Living. What a pleasure it is to come into your home each and every week to spread the good news, but it's very expensive. Now, I got good news and bad news. The good news is we got plenty of money. The bad news is still in your pocket. So if you'd like to help the ministry, please send a check to Daily Living at 325 West Main Street, White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia 24986, and together we take the good news to a lost world. Welcome back to Daily Living. Now, today we're talking about the call of Simon Peter, also known as the Big Catch. I've seen paintings depicting this gospel, where Peter's sitting in his boat while Jesus is preaching to the crowds, and it might make for a nice painting, but it's not necessarily scripturally accurate. I mean, Scripture is silent as to whether Peter was actually in the boat. Maybe he was just letting a line out and letting Jesus sit down and teach. Okay, we don't know exactly, but at some point we do know that Jesus climbs into Simon's boat, which is, of course, his livelihood. Now, one more thing about fishermen in general, as long as we're talking about it, okay? Fishermen are not educated people, okay? Simon is not a rabbi. Fishing was a 6 to 7 day a week job. It was considered unclean because of all the blood involved. And I love Peter. I've always loved Peter. It's hard to know for sure, but in my mind's eye, when I picture Peter, the closest thing I can really come up with as a modern day equivalent would be like a biker, you know? A guy, you know, tough biker, big guy, leather chaps, maybe a couple of tats, you know, guy you give a wide berth to, you know, you don't want to mess with this guy. And you would never accuse him of being a religious guy. But now he's confronted with the Logos, the mind and the will of the Father. And Jesus is preaching this word to the people. And when he's finished, he turns to Simon and says, you see all those nets that you've spent hours cleaning and hanging it up so neatly to dry on those racks? I want you to bring them back down, put them in a boat, push out a little ways, and drop them in the water. Now, there's a couple of major problems here. Okay, first of all, Jesus, you know, we love you, okay, but you ain't no fisherman. And if you were, you would know that you don't catch fish right here, okay? Fishing holes are like miles from here, okay? Second of all, the nets have been put up, they're dry, they're in their place. I'm tired, okay? I am tired. But then here it comes, the decision. Because on the other hand, it's got that other voice on the other shoulder going, well, you know, I'm not a religious guy, but what you said when you were preaching made a lot of sense to me. It kind of touched my heart. Never heard a rabbi preach like that before. And by the way, my wife tells me that you cured her mother, and I don't know, maybe she was just feeling better anyway, but I certainly appreciate you stopping by. But I got to make a decision. And in this moment, he makes the decision. What does he say? Master, we've been out all night and caught nothing, but at your command, I will lower the nets. The original Aramaic was just like, okay, boss, you know, recognition of authority. Okay, boss, I'm going to do what you tell me to do. That's my decision. Jesus has climbed into Simon Peter's boat, made a bizarre, even ridiculous request, and Simon Peter has made a decision. He decides, you know what? I'm going to do what this strange preacher is telling me to do. Now, okay, the next line is, when they had done this, which means that Peter must have had some rather interesting conversations with some of the guys he was working with, because it takes more than one person to lower the nets. And I could just hear it now. Are you kidding me? I'm going home. We caught nothing. I got to go to plan B. I got to pay my bills. I don't care what that guy says, right? But we can learn something from Peter right here. Because like I said, I'm thinking biker, okay? He obviously is the man in charge. And he doesn't really particularly care what they think or what anybody else thinks. He gets what he wants done, right? But I can see him pushing off the shore, and he's anxious, he's irritated, he's tired, but he's going to do it. And then boom, the part that we all know happens, right? So the boats were so full, they were sinking. Don't get lost in the fish, my friend. I can see Jesus on the shore with a big grin as he witnessed the pandemonium of joy. But let's push out to even deeper waters and talk about Simon Peter for a second. What's going on here? Half an hour ago, he was irritated, anxious, exhausted. Half an hour ago, he was so locked in his own head, meditating on his own failure, that he didn't even take the time to look up and see what Jesus was saying down the beach. Good thing there's nobody like that around here, huh? Half an hour ago, that's where he was. But now, it's all changed. Maybe he used to say a perfunctory grace before meals, or maybe he would go into the synagogue every once in a while, but his entire focus was on fish. But the one thing about fish is there's never enough fish. Now is there? Never enough. Jesus crawls into Simon Peter's boat and says, I am and I know who you are. If I had a dime for every time somebody told me a miracle story of how God showed up big in their life, I'd make Donald Trump look like a beggar, my friend. But the thing about it is, miracles don't change people. I'm talking near-death experiences don't change people. I mean, maybe for a while they're excited. Maybe for a while they're telling a story. But after a while, nothing seems to change. It's almost like Jesus got into their boat and said, I am. And they responded, well, I'm okay for now. I'll let you know when I have a problem. I'll catch up with you on Sunday, you know? Isn't that true? Why? Why do we do that? Well, we're getting into some deep water now, my friend. Okay? How are we going to respond when Jesus gets into our boat? Back to Simon Peter. I told you, I love the guy. Here's how he responds. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at the knees of Jesus and said, depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man. I get emotional just thinking about this. A biker on his knees. What if you today were confronted with the divine looking straight through you? I'm not talking about hearing the word. I'm talking about Jesus climbing into your boat and taking a look around. I mean, how would you react? I'd like to think that I would react like Simon Peter reacted. Because I know, as Peter did, that emotionally, spiritually, mentally, I am naked in front of this man. And I am worthy of nothing. Right? This is how Peter feels. He can't even look up. He's looking down at the ground. Say, if you really knew who I was, if you really knew all I've done, you would know that I don't deserve this. You just best go home. You better get away from me. Think about it. It kind of sums up the whole salvation history. Good news. I mean, the fall, the birth of Jesus, the ministry, the death, the resurrection, it's all kind of summed up in this one moment. You need to go away. I'm not worthy of you. And what does Jesus say? Do not be afraid. Oh, if we could just get that one. So let me ask you this question. What do you think he's afraid of? Well, I guess I ask you another question. If Jesus climbed into your boat today and started taking a look around, what would you be afraid of? He was afraid of his own sin, right? When they brought the boats to the shore, they left everything and they followed him. Simon Peter doesn't even make use of this huge catch. I mean, he just leaves it. I mean, I hope somebody picked it up. I'm sure somebody did. But he left it all. And this is a whole lot more than just material goods leaving behind. He left the boat of his life on that beach. I have a friend. He's an alcoholic, recovering, been sober about 20 years. And for many years, he would play pool in this bar with his friends. He had a spiritual awakening through the 12 steps. And his sponsor, this old man, said to him, you're going to have to find different playgrounds with different playmates. And he didn't like the way that sounded, you know. Nothing wrong with playing pool. Nothing wrong with friends. But he, very much like Peter in our gospel today, had to make a decision. And he did. He decided, I'm going to listen to this old man. And he stayed away from that bar, stayed away from playing pool. For a couple of years. After a couple of years, he did. He returned to that bar. Played pool with those same guys. But as far as that whole lifestyle, which was his boat of life, it had just kind of lost its flavor. And as it played out, he pulled a few guys out of that same bar who were having real problems with alcohol and brought them to meetings. And that story continues today. But back to Simon Peter. Back to Simon Peter, James, and John. What do? They leave the boats of their lives on the beach that day and they start to follow Jesus. You could say this is the very beginning of the church. Hear me when I say that no matter how great your miracle might have been, if you ain't following him, you didn't really hear from him. Really. And as far as the miracle goes, it's just a story that gets told over and over again to us. So many times after a while, you begin to wonder whether it's actually true. And it is worth nothing. So I have a question. What if Jesus was to climb into your boat today and ask you to lower your nets, even when it didn't make sense to do so? I guess you'd have a decision to make. You know why miracles don't really change people? Well, I'll tell you why. We live in a world of you're not the boss of me. I mean, we live in a world of leaders. And as leaders, we do exactly what we want to do, when we want to do it, and as much of it as we want to do. And we don't want nobody telling us what to do, because we're leaders. And as leaders, our prayer is, Lord, give me what I want, when I want it, as much as I want it, and then I will believe in you. Now that's the prayer of the leader. Now the prayer of the follower is, Lord, give me eyes to see and ears to hear what you would have me see and hear. Show me what to do. So what's it going to be for you? Jesus is climbing into your boat right now. You have a decision to make. Are you going to follow him or catch up with him later when you need him? You know, every day in this country, somebody does something nice for somebody else. Today, why don't you let that somebody be you? This is Daily Living. I'm Father Chapin. Hope you can come back next week and we'll do it again. Until then, I hope you let God live in your life. And I bless you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit.